The meeting has come to order. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved as presented. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Nice minutes.
Yeah, they are nice minutes.
Yep.
Today, I really just want to focus on getting us started thinking about the demolition delay bylaw. And later on, after we get into it more, we can decide whether we feel it's worthwhile pursuing or not. But I did ask Lauren Lind, who's the town planner, to join us, and she wouldn't do that. She just said she wasn't available to come to our meetings, but she did give me two documents that I thought were really very helpful. So those are the ones that I sent to you. The first one is the demolition delay description from the Mass Historical Commission. And that spells out, what the demolition delay is all about. It's to explore opportunities to preserve or move threatened buildings. Now, I don't think we're ever going to move buildings, but we certainly want to preserve buildings that are that risk being destroyed unless, as long as they are significant. We can discuss that a little bit later. The definition actually was a good definition, I thought, was provided by Milton. And what this does is the demolition delay bylaw allows a public discussion of the building that a developer or a homeowner wants to demolish. Sorry about that. First of all, you need to decide what kind of buildings you want to review. And the Mass Historical Society says that most communities establish a baseline age criterion, usually buildings that are 50 or 75 years or older. So that's the first thing. It's true. I think that, I don't know we'll discuss what Cohasset did at our next meeting, but say 75 years, that would be, if we were to do that, that would be buildings that were built in 1975, 1945 or earlier. Besides that, you have buildings that are listed on the State Register of Historic Places, or are eligible for listing in the National Register. And David Wadsworth has done a really good job of getting certain buildings listed for us, and he's inventoried a great many, probably many more than we'll need to consider. Let me see. Okay. A property owner requesting a demolition permit from the building department for a building that is subject to review, that is older than, say, 75 years old, and is inventoried as a building that's worth considering, they have to seek our approval. And it's a big commitment on our part, because it's a whole new regimen for us. We have to hold public hearings, and we have to get back to the building inspector at within a certain time period after we determine whether that building is worth preserving or not. And if it is, then we have to hold a hearing in which people, the homeowner or the developer would come to the meeting, neighbors might, members of the public who are interested. And we have to make a case for why this building should be preserved. If after listening to everybody, we decide that this is a building that we want to keep, then we have to get back to the building department with an explanation of why we think this is a good building to keep. And then the delay period goes into effect. It says most bylaws have a delay period of 6, 12, or 18 months. And the recommended period is 12 months. Now, a lot of people feel that demolition delay bylaws are ignored, that developers or homeowners just wait for that expiration period to go by, and then they go ahead and demolish the building. But the Mass Historical Commission gave you several examples of buildings of towns that have been successful in preserving buildings built in the 18th and 19th century mostly. So did you have a chance to read all this?
Yes.
Okay.
Jackie,
Yeah.
if you get a building permit in Cohasset to tear down a house that already exists, the building permit will call that a renovation. There are a lot of examples where building permits were issued with the expectation or presented as going to be a remodel. And of course, the developer or the architect gets in there and says, oh, sorry, we missed something, we'll have to tear it down. How do you deal with something like that? That happens a lot in Cohasset.
Well, I think you work closely with the building department. And they, you know, you can tell, I think we're getting a new building inspector, by the way. I think, was it?
I heard that a couple of years ago.
Yeah, well, it may happen now. But anyway, you tell him or her that if something is being presented as a remodel, and I think they do have to get back to him and tell them, no, we're going to demolish this building, then he notifies us.
Instances where that has happened, where it's been a ZBA thing and they change the plan, there isn't a subsequent hearing.
Well, there's a real procedure. When we'll look at Milton's bylaw, which I thought was pretty good. And we as a historical commission with proposing a demolition delay bylaw, we can set the parameters.
I don't think I was clear. I'm talking about what happens now versus what can happen in the future.
Yeah. Okay. What happens now is, yeah. Well, we've seen buildings are going down
all the time. I mean,
in the blink of an eye. I mean,
exactly.
We take walks, and all of a sudden, this house is gone.
That's
it doesn't
right.
take long, and it's appalling, really. But so. The
question is, how much support do you think would get in town, and whether the Cohasset Common District Commission would be behind it?
I don't know, but that's what we need to find out. We'll have to, once we decide we want to go ahead with this, we'll have to speak to other departments. And just casually speaking to people, I think people are concerned about the houses that are being torn down, these really beautiful homes. This might be a really good time to try again for a demolition delay bylaw. It failed twice before.
I think what we have to do is also consider the time frame. Like, do we want colonial and Victorian homes versus like newer homes? Like if we set we have to look at the target year, like anything past X, would fall into this category. I think that might lessen some of the fright, so to speak, that we would encounter. and it may have a chance.
Well, plus, as we mentioned actually earlier, we have to determine whether, even if it's an old house, is it historically significant? I mean, does it really, say it was built in 1890, if it doesn't have any particular historical value, if no one famous in the town lived there, or it's not a wonderful example of an architectural style that's typical of that period, then we say it's not within our, it doesn't fit the criteria that we've set, and if they want to demolish it, they can. I think let's look at the Milton bylaw, because I think they're pretty good. They set a pretty high bar, I think, for demolishing buildings. It's not just any old building. And I'll just, yeah, does someone want to say something?
I'd like to.
Okay.
We're talking about a form of a demolition bylaw. We're talking about the details of a demolition bylaw, but we haven't asked whether or not we should have a demolition bylaw.
Yeah.
And I don't take that. Has that already been decided?
No, but I'll tell you what is happening. In fact, Julia's not here either. The Master Plan Implementation Committee does have that on their agenda, and they're going to propose it. But we don't, I mean, we can say, we need to give it some consideration first, but we can say that we just don't think it's going to fly in this town. But yeah, I know that Katie Dugan is going to propose it to the selectmen.
Well, let's see what their response is, and if it's,
Yeah.
I think we should do that before we proceed, because if they're not in favor of it, or it's clear they aren't giving it any support, then we aren't going to get support through the rest of the town.
No,
But if they're interested,
agree.
if they're,
Yeah.
leaning towards it's a good idea, let's pursue it,
Yeah.
then I think we're in a much better
Question.
position.
Are they just going to propose to say, do we want to have a demolition delay or with no criteria? I think.
Oh, no.
No.
You have criteria set aside for that.
Criteria, and let me just, I think so we know really what we're talking about. I'd just like to go over what Milton has actually instituted for their bylaw. It says, okay, this.
Again, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the reason I bring up my point is that I'm going to vote against the demolition bylaw forever, only because I'm pretty confident that much of what we're going to talk about and what the Milton bylaw is concerned with is covered by at least 3 other boards in town who are better suited to the task than this commission would be.
Well,
so So let me just finish.
Okay.
So I know, and as a, basically the last 30 years, I've been in front of all these boards pushing housing or commercial projects here and there from here to Maine. I am just, physically opposed and emotionally opposed to another layer of bureaucracy that's kind of duplicative and that we're not really, I think, ever intended to have addressed. So I'm always going to vote no. And so that's why I don't think I'm going to add anything to the conversation, except just be kind of a curmudgeon or worse. So if you want to talk about the details of a bylaw before we've agreed that we should have a bylaw, I just want to drop out of the conversation, if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, what I'd like to do is so we understand what's involved in a bylaw. Megan, do you have any thoughts on this? I don't want to leave you out of the conversation here.
For asking, Jackie. No, I'm just learning a lot about bylaw. So I was interested to hear what you're going to explain about Milton.
Okay, I thought it was really very interesting. Okay, Their bylaw was adopted for the purpose of protecting the historic and aesthetic qualities of the town by preserving, rehabilitating, or restoring whenever possible, buildings that constitute or reflect distinctive features of the architectural or historical resources of the town.
May I be,
And, okay,
may I be excused? I think you'll still hold a quorum, so you don't need me, right?
no, do you want to leave?
If you'll excuse me, I would
Yeah,
love
I will excuse you, okay.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Good night.
Okay.
Okay. The Milton defines a historically significant building as any building that is importantly associated with one or more historic persons or events, or with the architectural, cultural, political, economic, or social history of the town of Milton, Massachusetts, or the United States of America, or is historically or architecturally important by reason of period, style, method of building construction, or association with a particular architect or builder, either by itself or in the context of a group of buildings. So it's really, you would consider saving a building that, think in Cohasset, you think of, any historic person that's really important, but the one person that comes to mind, for example, is Elisha Doan, who lived in what is now the community center building. I would think we would want to preserve the community center building, and it has a lot to do with the cultural history of Cohasset. So,
Is that on the Cohasset Common Historic District though already?
it might be, but look, we lost a building already on the Commons, so yeah.
I know.
But so we could certainly weigh in on something like that. But not only that, Milton goes a step farther, because there could be a significant building like Royal Barry Wills was a well-known architect. So you might say, well, we should save those houses, but Milton goes a step further to determine among the historically or architecturally significant buildings, which ones are preferably preserved. And it says, any historically significant building which, because of the contribution made by such a building to the town's historical and or architectural resources, is in the public interest to preserve, rehabilitate, or restore. So that's a pretty high bar. It means the building that you want to save really has to have has to have made a contribution to the town.
All right, I've got the old library, the Pratt Building, and also Cohasset Savings Bank or Hingham Savings Bank.
Yes.
Those are two buildings of particular merit.
Well, that's right. So you go to bat for those buildings. You might not for another. Well, like we saw that building on Elm Street that we said.
Yep. That's so quite prominent now.
Yeah. I mean, that wasn't.
Okay.
That was 87 Elm Street across from the Cohasset Harbor Inn. That really hasn't contributed in any way to the town, and it's,
It may have 100 years ago, but certainly not since then.
So
I'm sorry, Jackie. I think our best bet would be to see what happens with the master plan and the selectmen, because they're much more able to pursue it than we are. I think what we'd do is do the specifics and identify which ones we would like, what era or what style or something.
Well, we'd have to decide the time period, before 1945 or whatever.
I think that's too.
And then
too
then
late.
also, we would be the ones to decide how long. For example, this Milton bylaw was actually for 9 months or something like that. And recently they've
They
extended it to
didn't
2 years, 24 months, which is, I would never fly in Cohasset. But, you know, that's what you can do too, is you can amend it to extend the period from, say, 6 months to 12 months if you feel that the 12 months is more of a deterrent.
Jackie, whatever happened to the large house review? Remember that came about, what, 20 odd years ago, 30 years
Yeah.
ago with the one in Jerusalem Road
Yeah.
Lane? Or,
Yeah,
and it sort of disappeared, didn't it? We've got these 6,000 square foot houses being built.
these houses that fill in the entire building.
Yes,
lot,
yes.
yeah. That's a very good question. I don't know. That must have,
Wasn't it supposed to be over 3,500?
I
I
don't
thought it was
know.
over 3,500
500
square feet. And it,
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything about it, or even if we still have it.
Well, I don't think our town has done a very good job of enforcing a lot of these bylaws or like preserving. So, you know, it would make us a sort of a more significant committee, because we would really be weighing in. We'd be holding hearings. We'd be discussing with the homeowner or the developer how they might save the building in some way, and actually I think we would also need to change the composition a little bit, maybe get 1 or 2 architects on the committee.
I don't think we'd have a problem filling the slots if we had a demolition delay bylaw.
Yeah.
I suggest we see what Katie's planning on doing. And if the master plan folks are gung-ho on it, that would be very helpful. If they're lukewarm, maybe we consider a different strategy, or even whether we want to pursue it. But I think we ought to look to them initially.
Well, Julia's our liaison. I think she may actually be trying to come on. Do you see that number? Let me see.
Yeah, it's a 617 number.
I think that might be her cell phone. Let's see. I don't know.
You want to call her? Okay.
Do you want to?
Well, let me see if I can find her on my cell phone.
No.
I don't have her phone. I just have her email. Wait a minute. No, I do have a phone. I'll call her cell phone.
Okay, cool. And you might have to walk her through the, okay.
No answer.
Well, that's too bad. I'm sure she's kind of frantic. But anyway, I can talk to, I know that she has not met yet with the Master Plan Implementation Committee. She's very excited about it, though. She's motivated.
Were they meeting tonight?
No.
No, okay.
No. So she can press them to see how eager they are to have a demolition delay bylaw, but my guess is that they do.
Try your home number.
Okay. No.
No.
Well.
Oh, hi, Julia. Are you having trouble getting on? I know. Are you having trouble getting on to the Zoom meeting tonight? Well, why don't you see if you can get on? Okay. Okay. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Thanks, Julia. Okay, bye-bye.
So what's the story?
She said she forgot and she's going to get on as soon as she can.
Okay, because
She had something else happen. So anyway, she said that she felt terrible and she should be on any minute. And if not, I'll call her back.
okay. Now,
We'll see.
Mark and Megan, do you have strong feelings pro or con the demolition delay bylaw? Do you think it's just on the face of it, is it worth pursuing?
I think if we set, sorry, Megan, I didn't mean to interrupt. I mean, I think if we set to make it more palatable to people,
Yeah.
to set to be more like Milton and just try to keep it, but as flexible as we're not looking for every house. We're not we're looking for something that's like pre-1960.
Yeah.
And that makes it, I think that opens up a whole swath of people who don't care. And that would be the talking point. This is pre-1960. We're looking for things that happened, in the past, and we'll make the judgment whether or not they're architecturally or significant, but this, that, and the other thing.
So just have a time parameter, which is really the first thing you need to do.
Yeah.
Decide how old the houses should be, and then decide whether it's it's architecturally significant and so forth.
I was gonna say that I love this in theory. I want it to work. I'm a little intimidated by the heavy lift involved if it all goes through.
Yeah, right. So the thing is, if we wait and just find out if the implementation committee wants to do a demolition delay bylaw, we would have to defend the bylaw. We would have to describe it too, what we feel Cohasset would accept. So I suppose the first thing we should do is see what the implementation committee wants to do, if they are, I'm pretty sure from my conversations, and I guess Susie, you and I talked with Katie Dugan, and I'm pretty sure she wants to go through with at least trying to get a bylaw in Cohasset.
Let's see if she's successful, and then it'll be a lot easier because we'll have support.
Okay.
Right now, the amount of support is unknown.
Yeah.
We all talk about it, but I'm not convinced yet that
there's
the
enough.
support
Right. Yeah. Okay.
would be enough for the amount of work that's involved. I think drafting the bylaw is not as big a deal once we decide
first,
what the parameters are.
People want it or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with not having meetings now, live meetings, I think a lot of things happen that might not have otherwise. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
People aren't able to go to meetings, and I think there's a reluctance to do it on Zoom. It's one thing if you show up at town hall
Mm-hmm.
or a meeting elsewhere, but not many people are doing the Zoom meetings. It's awkward. It's hard.
Yeah, that could be, and we would certainly have to go in person to ZBA, the planning board, and so forth to discuss.
But nobody's doing anything in person yet.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
I think Julia has answered I'm gonna.
Oh, hi, Julia.
Let's see. I think. Oh, there she is. Now she's got that cute little girl picture. Let's see. Connecting to audio. Well, she'll come on when she comes on. Okay, so I think there's a consensus among us anyway that we wait and find out if Katie Dugan wants to promote a demolition delay bylaw by defending it to the Board of Selectmen. and see what they have to say. And if they say, oh, it's a great idea, then we have some more work to do. If they say it's been defeated twice in this town, it's just not worth anyone's time and effort, we'll forget it. The alternative is to create historic districts too. Say, and I found out that historic districts could be one building. In other words, the old library, the Pratt building, you could create a historic district that's just consists of that building, and then that preserves it permanently. It doesn't have to go through any process. So that's an alternative too.
Not exactly. It preserves it, but that doesn't mean it can't be altered or torn down. It would be up to the district in which it is.
Oh, yes,
For example,
okay.
the one on
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear
Oh,
you.
the
God.
one on North Main, for example, that wasn't a historic district, and yet they voted to tear that down and have it rebuilt. So there's some degree of preservation, but it doesn't mean it's written in stone. Does that make sense?
I think so, but I'd like, well, maybe for the next time I will read up a little bit on the historic districts. I don't think somewhere I read that is a good way to preserve buildings without going through the demolition delay process. But anyway, I have to look that
No,
up.
it would be the who's ever on the district commission.
Yeah,
Those people get to vote,
yeah,
and hopefully they're going to say, no, you can't tear it down, but we know that doesn't
yeah.
always happen. Here's another example. There were two buildings in my old Boston neighborhood that were beautiful 1820 houses that were built by a known housewright who built on Beacon Hill. Wheeler was his name. And Boston Landmarks said, no, you can't tear them down. It was in a registered historic district. We all said, no, you can't tear them down. Somehow they managed to get a judge. And I remember it very clearly because it was the day after Thanksgiving that they went in there and the buildings were gone. The judge said, okay, fine, you can tear them down, and they did. And that was once they were gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
And it was in complete opposition to some pretty heavy opposition to destroying the buildings. So it can be done. It can be sneaky, but it can be done.
Yeah.
Is there any way to put the screws to, or maybe influence the zoning board and stuff like that? Be like, hey, like they want to come in and do this, but this house is X, Y, and Z.
Well, yeah, you have to make a case for
Yeah.
it. You have to
It would be an open hearing.
explain why
Yeah.
it's an important building. And it's sometimes developers do change their minds. They say, well,
not
maybe
worth it.
we're not interested in this building, but we know someone who is more historically oriented than we are. And there were several examples of that in the Milton, no, I'm sorry, in the Historical Commission's description of the demolition delay bylaw. They give examples of how okay. For example, Brookline extended their delay period to 18 months for anything on the National Register or eligible to be listed on the National Register. And it said that the delay period provided the extra time needed to establish a local historic district, and that it said it was saved from demolition. Now, I don't know, perhaps you can still destroy something that is on the National Register, but
Remember, the National Register doesn't count as much as a historic district.
No.
Because you can put just about anything on the National Register,
Yeah.
but it doesn't preserve it.
So anyway, if the demolition delay bylaw doesn't seem to fly at all, it's not even worth talking about, we discover, we could look into establishing historic districts if that's what this group would like to do.
Would need the people who live in a proposed district first to
do
get
it, yeah.
together. And that's not easy.
No,
There's
it's not easy, yeah.
a lot of opposition, especially if they think they won't be able to sell their house to a developer.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
The only place I can think of would be South Main Street. South Main Street has a lot of old houses.
Yeah.
I don't know if there'd be much on Elm or Summer, much interest there.
So anyway, I brought this up because Katie really did ask us to consider the demolition delay bylaw. And we can, if Julie, are you here?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you
Oh
hear
gosh,
me?
I've been playing around. I've been listening to the whole thing for about 20 minutes.
Okay.
I do apologize. Katie is, yes, I met with Katie
Yeah,
and
okay.
basically went over what she had gone over with you at the last meeting and has given me all the pointers from what the major things that they're considering. There's five, that the master plan is talking about. And I have to find out when their next meeting is.
Okay, because our question.
Because she went over, you heard what I heard from her after the meeting, and then, me meeting with her.
Right. Well, our question is, how serious are they about a demolition delay? She mentioned the demolition delay bylaw, but there's a lot of skepticism among our members as to whether it's worth it. It could work in Cohasset. It was defeated twice, and even among this group, there are people. One person didn't even want to consider it at all, and
yeah.
And,
no,
for the meeting.
It's one of their 5 points that they're looking at, and they've decided to have meetings every 6 weeks. So I will zoom in.
Okay.
And let you know on the next one.
Okay.
And I do apologize, God, for
Well,
screwing up again.
That's okay. Okay.
But I'm here. So.
That was all I wanted to do, was to just throw out the demolition delay bylaw, try to define it a little bit so we all know what we're talking about, and see whether this group is interested in pursuing it.
What I can do is I have not had, with moving and everything, I haven't really had a chance to look at the files that she gave me. Okay. So I will look at them and see if there is anything pertinent, Jackie. I will send it to you.
Okay. Aside from that, this is really all I wanted to do. I think at some previous meeting, we talked about getting a representative from the town hall building committee to come and tell us what's going on there with the plans for a new town hall. Are you interested in that? Should I try to get somebody to come to our next meeting, or do you want to? Not too much?
We can't have a new town hall.
Okay, well, we don't need to do it.
Oh.
Not yet. Can I go back to something that we talked about a little while ago?
Yeah, okay.
The master plan zoning people have a meeting. Well, anyway, there's a discussion coming up. It's the large home review bylaw and enforcement. Update on planning board discussion, may modify or eliminate. I guess it's a bylaw 300/5.4. So that has been discussed. And that's on the agenda for the next meeting, which is sometime in October, October 14th.
Is that the planning board?
No, it's Master Plan Implementation Committee zoning
Okay.
bylaw working
Oh.
group.
Thank you, Susie. I will, that's the one I have to be at.
Okay.
Okay, the zoning one?
The Master Plan Implementation Committee, except I haven't been able to be sworn in. I've tried several times to,
They'll go anyway.
so I'm not technically, yeah, no, I'll zoom in anyway, because officially for a year, I'm our liaison to that, so.
Anyway, that's on the agenda.
Okay. Well, Julie, if you can report to us on that next time we meet, that would be good.
And with you, and if there's, what was the thing earlier you had asked about,
Well, the demolition delay
the
bylaw.
demolition delay, yeah.
Yeah,
No, I
and-
can see,
and-
I can
and-
see what, if there's anything that, that might pertain to that you would be interested in, that I could send to you, with the files that Katie sent me.
Okay, but
And give me the date again on the Zoom
What did I say? It was the 16th?
for the 16th, October
I think it's the
16th.
16th. You can check it on the town website.
I can do the town, okay, because I met with Katie and enjoyed talking to her, and I'm very interested in helping out on trying to change what's going on in this town. Yes, Susie, we got to do it.
okay. So is there any other business, anything anyone wants to discuss? No?
No.
Okay. Well, I think we can adjourn, we'll meet, if you wish, on Monday, November 9th. That's probably 5 weeks from now. And we'll have Julia talk, and then we'll see.
Well, Julia will try as best as she can, because Julia's knee surgery is on November 3rd. So I'll be as,
You'll be fine.
yeah, but if I seem a little too happy, you'll understand.
Okay. Well, if
Well,
there
do
is,
the best I can.
okay, well,
And I'll try to get the Zoom thing down. Oh, I'm so sorry.
well, it's hard for all of us, actually.
I know, but I'm
It'd be
just-
nice to meet in person.
Susie, thank you for calling me, because I was all gung-ho about this meeting tonight, and then I just completely forgot about it. But
Anyway,
anyway.
I want to thank all of you for meeting on Zoom, and we will meet again in November and go on from there.
I move we adjourn.
I second.
second,
Meeting is
Good night,
adjourned.
everybody.
and
Bye-bye.
Mark, I'm gonna be your new neighbor,
I know. I'm excited.
so we'll have to get together. Okay.
That